some of the commercial lighting programs in a moment, they'll be eligible for rebates right away on a per light basis. Now there's also programs that, depending on what part of the city you're in, you can also get kind of rebates and money back on. So now all of a sudden, if you're an engineer or you're an electrician or you're an architect and you're competing against someone else and they don't know about these programs and you're competing against someone who doesn't know and you do know, all of a sudden they're going to compare the two quotes, full price of this guy, full price of this person, plus this one's told me about these rebates that I'd be eligible for. Which one do you think's going to win if all things are equal? So that's, kind of some of the incentives and some of the ways things work. Now, some of the things aren't exclusive of each other. The more you know about these programs, you can start to stack them on each other. Now, for instance, NYSERDA has a program, and also let me go back one step. Just because there's programs out there doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get them each and every time. They're great to have. You need to make a business case beforehand on how you're going to reduce their costs. But there are programs that are out there. But let's take one program. You can also combine it with another. Now, one of the programs which I mentioned was a smaller 20-unit project in Bed-Stuy. Now, just by nature of where it's located and the income that the majority of people have in that area, if the tenants in that building can show a certain level of income, i.e. if they're subsidized housing, if they're Section 8 or something like that, you're now eligible for a different kind of program. So now I can put two programs together while I'm looking at doing an energy upgrade as far as improving their efficiency. So now I've got two programs which are help funding this owner's building, which on an ongoing basis will reduce their costs. But by combining something like the Weatherization Assistance Program with maybe a NYSERDA program, now there's more money available to the efficiency of that project. So to go back to Chris's question, does green cost more or does green make financial sense? Absolutely, if you know the angles, if you know the system, if you know what's out there. If you're just going and approaching it from an altruistic point of view, giving the highest and best and most expensive technology, then you're only going to do it for altruistic reasons. If you're talking about payback, return on investment, reducing their costs, subsidizing their investment through either state, local, or federal programs, people will want to talk to you all day long.
I feel like I'm going to hardly have to speak after going second here tonight. So I think overall the answer to is green more expensive is sometimes. And a lot of things do cost a little bit more, but a lot of things are certainly equivalent costs. But for the things that do cost more, once again, NYSERDA is here for you, and I'm not going to go too long on this because we have a really wide variety of incentives that once again cover all the building types, so I'm not going to go into all of them specifically. But we do see people coming back over and over again and making a business model off of using our incentives to sell projects. And that's something that I really do think that is useful to people, that they can show that not only are they getting an energy savings, but they're also doing it with this extra bonus of reduced cost. And for the most part, our incentives will cover at least the incremental cost between what you consider your code standard and the more energy efficient projects. You can sell the project for the same price and then offer them a better piece of equipment in the end, which is obviously a great way to sell projects. And we definitely see people making business models off that in all of our different programs, in our commercial programs and our residential programs. And the other thing that we found is that green buildings, a lot of these things, if you're doing a major chiller upgrade, that's going to be a lot of capital up front, and that's true. And for residential programs, we do have some financing. For commercial, we had some financing, and it's currently oversubscribed, but we're hoping it'll be refunded soon. But the other thing that we see is that the buildings tend to be worth more. People these days are actually learning to ask for these things. People want to know that their building is functioning well. And in the long run, I think everyone who's been in green building knows that green building is actually good building. That's really all that it is. If you look back and when people really took time to design their buildings to be energy efficient and all those sorts of things because energy wasn't so cheap. They're very similar to the techniques that we're seeing now. And so you can not only sell your building on being energy efficient, but your tenants are going to be happier because their AC is working on the right day and only at the level that they're expecting it to, as opposed to having to bring in their winter jacket in the summer. So there's many steps to this. There are some things that are cheaper up front. There are some things that cost a little more, and that's where we're here to help you. And there are places where you don't see it in that energy bottom line, but you'll see it in other parts of your building. And as an architect or an engineer or someone who's selling that job, emphasizing those can really be a great way to get projects done.
Here, you can take this one. There you go.
Sorry, that's the second time I almost spilled your water all over you. I'm sorry.
It would feel cool, though.
I think your question is a really interesting one from a legal perspective because you asked, does green cost more? And so my question to you would be, well, what does green mean? Does it mean a LEED rating? Does it mean a design that strives for some higher level of energy efficiency? Does it mean you're just going to put bamboo floors down and some Energy Star appliances and then market the project as eco-friendly or green or whatever? So I think as attorneys, that's really one of our primary challenges in this space is by contract to get everybody on the same page. So that they understand, yes, this is a LEED project under version 2.2, which, if you may know, the LEED program just changed on Monday. Now we're up to LEED version 3.0, 2009. So you can register under that through the end of the year. And I would bet that a lot of people don't know that. So if I'm an owner and I ask for a green building from my design team, from my contractor, how do they know what green is? So I think that really is one of the fundamental considerations on a green project for attorneys is understanding what green means. And as far as the cost, I think the studies that you could probably Google and dig up are all over the place, ranging from there is no premium, there's a slight premium for LEED certified, there's a more slight premium for the higher up you go with LEED. So I would suggest that maybe we just don't know yet. There aren't enough of these buildings that have been built. We don't have enough data on how they perform to really have a solid body of data on which we can make, and again, from the lawyer's perspective, we can make policy decisions, which is a whole separate issue that I won't get into. But I guess my answer to your question is, I don't know.
Great. Before we go on, I'd just like to throw in my 2 cents. When people ask me what is green, I say green is a color. Because unfortunately, that's all that it is. There's no legal definition, as Steve just pointed out. There's no legal definition of what is green. That's why.
Unless you put it into your contract, and you know that's what you're getting.
Right. As Steve pointed out, unless you put it into your contract. So the point that I'm making is that there are certification systems. And the certification system that Steve was referring to was LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. That's a point rating system for environmental buildings that was created by the U.S. Green Building Council. So I just wanted to clarify that. Mike, your answer to does green cost more?
Yes, that's a great question. Does green cost more? Well, this is going to be a similar answer in some respect, but it depends. It's really a matter of how you're approaching it. If you are building in that you want to have a green building from the start, if you're focusing on energy efficiency and the health of the building, and you have your design team, your project team is all on board from the start, then you can reduce a lot of those upfront costs. Whereas if you're kind of in the middle of the design phase and like, oh, it'd be really cool to go green and slap a LEED certification on our building because it might be good for marketing, well, then you might incur some more costs. As far as energy savings goes, it may cost you slightly more upfront, but you also need to look at a building from a